I found that when people use a lot of power tools, either in a DIY context or as a tradie, they can be a bit parochial about the brand they use. This is understandable to some extent, as you don't really want to have several different brands of batteries and chargers. None of the decent ones are cheap. This is obviously not an issue with plug-in tools. With respect to battery drills, historically, up until about 9 years ago, I used Makita. Back then I went in to purchase a new battery drill as my old one was past its best before date and you couldn't get batteries for them anymore anyway. I had done some research and I was looking at Makita, DeWalt, Bosch and Milwaukee. Hitachi, i.e. Hitachi reinvented, hadn't appeared at that stage. On that note, my first ever battery driver was a 4.8 volt Hitachi, but that was well back in the previous century. In the end, I went with the DeWalt as it had both the best price point at the time and also had the wider range of other tools, again at that time. It was a kit with an 18 volt impact drill with charger and 54 volt what they call FlexiVolt 6 amp hour battery. As time has gone on, I've bought the additional tools that you've seen me use in the videos, and probably a couple you haven't. When I bought both the grinder that I'm using here and latterly the circular saw you will see later, I bought 54 volt tools. Grinders and saws are often asked to work a bit harder when they are cutting things, specifically when ripping wet retaining boards with a circular saw or cutting concrete with the grinder. Unlike a number of other brands that run different voltages, i.e. Makita I think do, but DeWalt enables you to use the 54 volt battery in the 18 volt tool. My chainsaw is an 18 volt, but lasts well with the 6 amp hour 54 volt battery and is more capable actually than I expected it to be. I did try a DeWalt lawnmower a few years ago when my 30-year-old Honda self-powered mower died. I was disappointed, but it was quite big and bulky and heavy, and I was getting past lugging it around when it only really drove forward, not backward. So I tried the DeWalt. That was not a good choice, and so I sold it and purchased an Ego. But that's another story for another time that I'll come back to. Coming back to the job in hand, you can see that I'm cutting the ends off the threaded rod and pinning the ends of the threads. Some of these were more straightforward than others, for reasons that I won't bore you with. can see, I'm cutting off the threaded rod and peening over the ends of the threads. For those of you that don't know, this is called a ball peen hammer for obvious reasons, and what I've been using it for is what it was designed for peening over either threads on bolts and nuts, or the old rivets were also done that way when they used hot rivets. So that's what I'm doing this morning before I need to go and clean a B&B in town. And so I'll work my way along, hopefully get all of this done before I go to town. I don't have particular pressure at that end, as there's nobody going in there for a few days. So I shall carry on. This little cameo of Kathy illustrates a point. I do have both work-related and age-related hearing loss. In my younger years, working with my dad, I don't ever recall even seeing hearing protection. When driving the old farm haul tractor and mower to mow the school grounds, I don't think I even thought about hearing protection. In my teen years, when chainsaws were more of a thing, then earmuffs were used. As I moved into engineering as a vocation, we did use earmuffs more, but within the machine shop they were seldom used unless you were the one actually generating the noise. If you were 5 meters away, you didn't bother so much. As I look back, even into my 30s, the quality of the earmuffs I used was questionable. Over the last 20 plus years, as my hearing issues became obvious, and I didn't want it to degenerate any faster than I could avoid, I have always made sure that I use good quality earmuffs. Better late than never. The consequence of this is that when I have them on, and because Kathy has a quiet voice, well, that's my excuse anyway, if she wants to talk to me, she has to use visuals. In this instance, she was just heading out to go and see her mum and wanted to let me know. I've been thinking about what I could use the threaded rod offcuts for. Another project is to replace more than 30 metres of wooden fence on the other side of the property. I will use the threaded rod instead of bolts to fix the fence rails to the square posts. As I'd finished with the grinder, I switched the 54 volt battery to the saw. I do have 2 of the 6 amp hour batteries, but it makes more sense to run one down than to have 2 half flat ones, hence the switch. And the path, or as much of the path as I'm going to do, is done. So here you go, you can enjoy a thing of beauty and it'll be a joy forever. Well, probably not, but let's go. The more sharp-eyed of you will observe in this video that there are an awful lot of Ko-Fi flowers on the path already for one that's only just been completed. And also that the conduit appears to be in place, which didn't actually happen until several days later, about a week actually, I think. There's an explanation for that at the end of the video. And there we go. Later today, hopefully, I can put the water line in and then start working on getting the electrical cable / conduit in. That's going to be a bit of a mission, I know already. So We'll just take that slowly. Bye for now. I do have to chuckle sometimes because when I try to video things, they don't always pan out as you expected. So this is the third time I'm recording this, and I'll explain that further down the video. And also the third time I've just done the rewalk down the path, and I'll explain that later on as well. But what I want to talk about now is why did I cut that final board that went in into two pieces on a slope and put one half on the bottom and one half on the top. It has to do with different ground levels, different slopes, and above all, aesthetics. And so let's come down to the wall here. Here is the wall. Now you can see, hopefully, well, I'll explain. This top bit of wall up here, just up there, that is actually level. The retaining wall further up is on a slope, but at this point it's level. So the lower retaining wall, the boards also need to be level, otherwise it's going to look horrible, because you're going to have two lots of parallel lines that aren't parallel with one another. Hence why I cut this bit here and put it on the top, because the path is actually going uphill, and the other bit went in underneath because the ground is going downhill at that end. And so that's why I did that. And then around here you'll see that this path is still going uphill, and the retaining wall, I've changed the angle so that instead of being level, it's now going uphill. But the top of the wall, because of the ground level on the other side, is actually at a different slope. And so the top of the wall is for the ground on the other side. The lower part of the wall is because the path's going uphill. And so that continues on up around here. And again, a slightly different angle, different slope, but again, the lower boards and the upper boards are parallel, and so it's visually pleasing for that. That's the explanation of that and why I went to all that trouble. As you will have seen on Saturday morning, I dealt with all the threaded rod and got that all peened over and done. Then the rest of the day didn't quite pan out as planned, which is not unusual. And then later on Saturday afternoon, I placed the water line in where it's going to go. So it's now starting down here. I'm going to take this tap off here and run some copper pipe, and so I'll put a valve here just so I can isolate the whole leg, and then there'll be a copper pipe come across here, and there'll be one go up, and I'll put the tap around the corner up here, and then the supply to the shed will go down here into this trench across here. And then it will be clipped up along here. I'm not concerned about the sun getting to it around here, because it only really gets sun here in the early morning in the summertime, kind of from, well, probably October on. So for 6 months of the year it gets a little bit of sun in the morning, but that's it, because once we turn the corner here it actually will be buried down in behind the wall here. As you can see, yesterday afternoon I actually laid out my electrical conduit to see whether I had enough, and I don't, so I will get a couple more links of that, but it's going to sit up on here where it was till it fell down, and it will go just like that. It can stay there for now. So the pipe runs all the way along here, and through here, and I've run it underneath the shed, and the tap will be at the far end of the shed. So that's the waterline run. Now I need to sort out the conduit and cable. Basically the same route but in a different place on the route. So that might be a job for later today, or it might not. I really do need to get some video editing done, so I may do that this afternoon instead. And as per normal, this fella's in the tree here right next to me. I'm not sure what he's saying. I'm not sure whether he's talking to me. Probably not. He's probably talking to the other tui that's over in the other tree that's making similar noises. It's that time of year. Mind you, they go all year round, but they're more vocal and aggressive at this time of the year. That's it for now. A couple of days ago, on a not very pleasant Thursday, my friend Electric John came out to give me a hand to run the cable in the conduit from the shed to the house. The cable inside the conduit now goes from inside the shed to outside the shed under here, and then it comes out the other side, and yes, I will put some saddles on there, the same as I've done. Well, I haven't done this one, but anyway. So it goes through under there. This part here is all going to be covered in concrete, so it doesn't have to be in the orange conduit that you have to use when you go underground. It's not protected. So it comes up there and it runs all the way around here. And then it goes up under the rail there, so it runs along underneath here. If you're wondering why there are two more up there, it's because I was short of conduit, and so I've got two more since then. And then it comes down the post and into the ground and changes to the orange conduit. This trench took me quite a while to dig. I may or may not cover that in another video. And then goes along there, and then it will change back to the solar conduit, and it will run clipped to the concrete underneath the grate but up out of the water, and all the joins that are either vertical or in the ground have been glued. So then it runs along here, and it will run into this conduit and up the wall and into the bottom of the switchboard. It was hopefully going to be my day today to get all of that conduit cable and everything saddled underneath there, but it is already well into lunchtime. We had quite a bit of rain this morning. As it happens, Thursday night after we'd run all of this, it absolutely hosed down rain, and hence why the trench is full of water and all those good things. So we'll come back to that another day. I am rethinking the water line a little bit. I may actually bring it on this side and tuck it up underneath that bottom rail. It would just give it a bit more protection. than what it will have on the other side. Alright, let's go and stitch this into the video. This was my first attempt at recording the walk down the path. The GoPro decided of its own volition that it wasn't going to flick over, and so we ended up with this rather interesting view. The next clip after this finishes is when I tried to record the bit about the angles and inadvertently set it on time-lapse rather than on video record. Hence, that didn't work either. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks, bye.